Hey friends, it is another great Wednesday night. We've got so many amazing things in store at North Park Youth tonight. Now, before we go any further, I need to check to make sure you're in the right spot. Are you a high school student? Okay, good. You're here, and you're supposed to be here. For junior highs, if you're here, you're supposed to be at the Awkward Week 2 YouTube premiere. This is our More to the Story Week 2 YouTube premiere for high school students. I know. It gets confusing with two different teaching series going on, but that is okay. Just make sure you're in the right spot. And I want you to make sure that you're ready for great conversation tonight, because in both our premieres, we're going to have all sorts of interaction with you in the chat. So make sure those typing fingers are ready to go, and it's going to be a good one. We've got some amazing things coming up tonight. We've got Hannah doing worship with us in a little bit. We've got Madi leading us again in week 2 of More to the Story, and it's a good week of teaching. And so I'm excited that you're here. Let me tell you about a few things coming up before we jump into our game for tonight. So number one, have you been part of Trivia Tuesday on Tuesday nights? I hope that you have. You and your small group should join us every single week. We've been having a lot of fun with it. This past week we did winter trivia. I don't know why, because I don't really like winter at all, but a few of you out there do, and you wanted to know a little bit more about winter, and so we put together some winter trivia and had a really fun night last night. Next week, make sure to give your input on what we should be talking about. On Mondays, I put a little question box in our IG stories. Make sure you submit what you think we should be doing for Trivia Tuesday, and then we'll see if we do it on Wednesday night or not. And the last thing that I have to announce is for our high school girls, we have the Therefore gathering happening on February 19th. If you want to know more about it, I'm not going to tell you much, but other than the fact that there are going to be some amazing speakers at this event. But if you want to know more, talk to your small group leaders. It's going to be an amazing day. We're hoping to get a ton of people out to it, and there may be a little porch drop-off situation as well if you sign up soon. So talk to your small group leader about what that's all about, and we hope that you join us for that day. Okay, I'm not going to go on any further. We've got a great game coming up. It's a little bit of a different game, and again, it involves a lot of conversation. So I'm going to throw things over to Bree. She's going to run our game, and then we'll see you again at the end of the night.
Hey everybody, welcome. We're playing a new game tonight. It's not trivia. I know some of you might be disappointed, but we're playing a game that some of you may have played before. It's called Four Corners, and this is a North Park edition. The answers are going to take place in the chat, and the idea is that you're going to be giving a slide that has 4 different options and a question. You have to go in the chat and tell your peers which color corner you belong in this particular question. All right, let's get started. You have 2 minutes to answer each question. Question number 1. What is your favorite room in the church? Is it the auditorium, the gym, the theater, or somewhere else? think my favorite room is probably the youth theater. There's always good things back there. People, candy, sometimes there's coffee. What's not to love? Okay, speaking of treats, here's your next question. What is your favorite thing at snack bar? Is it chocolate bar, candy, pop, or sour keys? I think my favorite thing at snack bar is, oh man, I'll never turn down a fresh roll of Starburst. Okay, next question. When did you start going to North Park? Was it before grade 1, from grade 1 to 5, grade 6 to 8, or was it in high school? I first started attending North Park when Josh and I had just gotten married and he had moved here. We came here from the GTA to work here at Youth. So that was a while ago. Next question. What is your favorite part about Wednesday nights when we're back in person? Is it the worship and teaching? Or is it small groups? Or is it gym time? Or is there something else? Tell us, what is your favorite part when we're all together on Wednesday nights? Okay, so my favorite part is probably just anytime we get to interact with each other. I know I'm talking of a place where I haven't seen people in a long time, but I always have enjoyed getting to know more about a lot of you guys during the times when we're in transition. So like going from welcoming to going to have our worship time and then having time at snack bar just to mingle and meet each other. I love that part. All right, our very last question. Out of these 4 traits, what characteristic best describes your small group leaders? Okay, ready? Here they are. Loving, compassionate, trustworthy, or patient. I'd love to hear it, and I know they'd probably love to hear it too. So let's hear it in the chat. thanks so much for playing, you guys. It was so nice to hear more about who you are and where you come from, and also how we feel about our leaders who are so dedicated to you guys. And I'm so glad we get a chance to worship together tonight. Speaking of which, Hannah is next. Let's prepare our hearts for some worship.
Hi, everyone. Before we jump into worship today, I have a really quick challenge for you all. Before you tune me out, just hear me out for a second. So it's something I've been thinking about as I've planned worship over the past couple weeks, has really been trying to maintain a posture of worship, because I feel like it can get really easy when we're constantly in video chats and constantly watching recordings and constantly online, to get stuck in the idea of, like, when we come to Wednesday nights and come to do worship, it gets very mundane and it's just another recording and we're just listening to more music, and it's very easy to kind of tune it out. But I really want us to try to remember the importance that we're not here for us. This time of worship is not for us to feel good or for us to enjoy listening to ourselves or for us to hate listening to ourselves. But it's really a time for us to bring what we have to God and be open to receiving whatever He has to give us. And part of that involves readying yourself physically and mentally to give and to receive. So I don't know how many of you were here, I guess a couple years ago now, last year, I can't remember, but Jordan LG came and talked to us at youth about worship and about like the posture of worship. And I just remember him lying like face down on the ground. But that was his example of the posture of worship and the idea of having like such reverence for God that we just kind of lay everything we have down. And I know that looks different for everybody. For some people, getting into that kind of space to be ready to worship God can be through music. It can be through singing or through playing an instrument. For some people, it's drawing or journaling or walking or any number of things it could be. But I encourage you today to do that, whatever it is. So whether it means you need to stand up right now and stand with your eyes closed and your hands up, or if it means you need to go grab your instrument or a journal or a pencil or whatever it is, I encourage you to go do it. And I'm not going to say to pause the video because then we're all going to be off time and it'll be kind of complicated. So I'm going to give you permission to miss the first few seconds of our first song. It's fine. I'm over it. But just if you need to, go grab whatever you need to go grab. And then I just encourage you to sit in that posture or stand, whatever it is. Just be in that place and be ready for God to speak to you, but also just for you to give what you have to God. And also, sometimes that's not very much. Sometimes it's literally just standing or sitting and being quiet because you don't have very much to give today. And that's also fine, because the cool thing about God is that He accepts whatever you have and He'll meet you halfway. So if that's all you have today and you don't have very much, that's also fine. But I encourage you to give what you do have into worshiping God just for the next couple of minutes. So before we do that, I'm going to pray, and then we'll jump straight in. So God, thank you so much for this time that we have to worship you. I just pray that you would really help us to worship you. I pray that you would help us to give what we have. And I thank you that you receive what we have as we give it, as it is. And God, I just pray, that you would meet us where we are tonight. But that we would remember that this is truly for you. This is not about us. Just ready our hearts for worship and to hear the message later on tonight. Amen. I'm coming back to the heart of worship, and it's all about you. It's all about you, Jesus. I'm sorry, Lord, for the thing I made it when it's all about with power and fighting our battles. Every knee will bow before him. Coming on the clouds, kings and kingdoms will bow down, and every chain will break, as broken hearts declare His praise. Who can stop the Lord Almighty? Our God is the Lion of Judah. He's roaring with power and fighting our battles. Every knee will bow before Him. Our God is the Lamb that was slain for the sin of the world. His blood breaks the chains, and every knee will bow before the Lion and the Lamb. Oh, every knee will bow before Him. Open up the gates, make way before the King of Kings. The God who comes to save is here to set the captives free. For who can stop the Lord Almighty? Our God is the Lion of Judah. He's roaring with power and fighting our battles. Every knee will bow before Him. Our God is the Lamb that was slain for the sin of the world. His blood breaks the chains, and every knee will bow before the Lion and the Lamb. Oh, every knee will bow before Him. Who can stop the Lord Almighty? 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 Who can stop the Lord Almighty?
Let me start with a quick question. Are there any people who are your friends right now that you didn't like when you first met them? Yeah, it's actually a pretty common thing. In fact, you probably have some friends that didn't like you when they first met you. Maybe it's not that they disliked you, they just didn't understand you. They thought you were strange or stuck up or rude or annoying, but then they spent time with you and realized there's more to the story, that you weren't the person they originally thought you were. And that's what we're talking about in this series, because the reality is there are some topics that we've possibly all had some impressions of or opinions about, but the way that we see things are slightly off or twisted or just plain wrong. There's more we need to understand. There's more to the story. There are topics that you expect to talk about in church, right? Topics like prayer and love and the Bible, and that makes sense. And then there are things you don't expect to talk about in church, like NFL football and Harry Styles and streaming content on Twitch and how to get more TikTok followers. Today, we're going to talk about Harry Styles. I'm kidding, I know nothing. But we are going to talk about a topic that you don't expect to talk about in church. Are you ready? We're talking about porn. Maybe you're surprised I just said that, or maybe you just rolled your eyes because straight up you're like, it's not a big deal. Or maybe you're acting a little bit disgusted right now to keep your church image intact. But whether or not you think it's a problem, here are a few things you should know. Depending on what kind of music you listen to, you hear references to things that are somewhat pornographic on a pretty consistent basis. It doesn't seem like a big deal when artists like Cardi B rap about it, or when a comedian makes a joke about it, so why is it such a big deal that I'm talking about it now? If you watch TV, movies, Netflix, etc., you've possibly seen things that could be labeled as porn. Just because it wasn't an X-rated website on your phone doesn't mean that it didn't have undertones of porn or pornographic imagery. I'm not saying that to make you feel guilty. I'm just trying to make a point that this topic isn't as foreign and far away as you think. The average age of exposure to porn is 11 years old, so we're talking about something that is already affecting someone around you. By no means am I assuming that all of you have had encounters with porn. I'm just making a point that this is a preteen thing, and a teenage thing, and an adult thing. This affects everyone on the planet who has access to the internet, and if something affects everyone on the planet, we have to talk about it. If you're new to church this week and a little shocked that we're talking about this, I get it. And don't worry, we'll get back to topics like praying and reading the Bible to make everyone feel at ease. I'm kidding. I know this topic isn't easy, but here's something that I would love for all of us to get today. We're not just affected by porn. We're actually influenced by the culture of porn. And here's what I mean by that. This is not something that could potentially tempt some of us. This is not something that just affects some of us. This is something that influences all of us. Why? Because porn culture is all around us. Snapchat, sexting, movies, music, advertisements, conversations, apps, etc., etc., etc. It's everywhere. Plus, the porn industry generates $12 billion a year. That's more than the combined annual revenues of ABC, NBC, and CBS. It is all around us, all the time. And it's impossible to spend time around something and not be affected by it. When it comes down to it, porn is sexualized content designed to get a specific response. A lot of people start watching porn because they're curious, so it's kind of like sex education. The problem is that porn was never designed to educate you. It was designed to hook you and make you addicted. It was designed to manipulate you. We're being influenced by something that's teaching us a fake education. How many of you love McDonald's? No one's mad at you if you do, no one's mad at you if you don't. If you don't, then maybe just think of Wendy's or Burger King. But let's say that a McDonald's manager came here and talked about eating healthy. And he or she talked about eating things like Big Macs and fries and McFlurries. None of you would fall for it. You'd see right through it. You'd be like, why are we allowing this person to teach us about healthy nutrition? Going to porn is like going to McDonald's to eat healthy. It would have adverse effects. Going to porn for sex or sex education is the same. It has adverse effects and can actually hurt you. The truth is that there's more to the story, and that's what we're going to talk about for the next few minutes. There's a book in the Bible called Proverbs, and the Bible is really a collection of books, and it's split into two sections, the Old Testament and the New Testament, which basically just means the books before Jesus walked on earth and the books after. Proverbs is in the Old Testament, and it's a book of poetry that is primarily about wisdom, which simply means truths that make your life better. These proverbs were written by an ancient king named Solomon, who is famously known as an extremely wise person. But what does an ancient king have to say that would be relevant to our lives now? Some of it may be confusing, but a lot of it actually makes sense in the lives of teenagers and adults alike. For example, the verse we're going to look at today says this: "The simple believe anything, but the prudent give thought to their steps." Simple is basically naive. For example, a simple person believes everything they read online. They think every science experiment works like they see on TikTok. They fall for any prank because they're easily tricked. They're gullible. They believe anything. And when it comes to porn, maybe you've heard or thought statements like this: "It's not hurting anyone. There are worse things I could be doing. I'm not doing anything. I just looked. At least I'm not having sex with a real person." We've been naive when it comes to porn. We've believed everything, but hear this: porn never tells the whole story. There's a website called fightthenewdrug.org, and they've compiled decades of studies from respected institutions about pornography. Their website has assembled over 1,000 pornography-related articles, and here are some of the research facts they discovered. Frequent exposure to pornography is associated with less trust in intimate partners. The sex acts shown in pornography are unrealistic and often abusive. Even moderate porn use is correlated with damage to parts of the brain involved with motivation and decision-making. Compulsive pornography users are at risk for depression and stress. When adolescents, both male and female, are exposed to sexualized media, they are more likely to have stronger notions of women being sex objects. And pornography makes violence appear sexy. Porn doesn't tell you facts like this when you look at it. It wants you to be distracted and addicted. It doesn't want you to have a full and complete life. Consider these things. Porn will not make you better at sex. It might actually make you worse because it damages your relationships. Porn will not make sex better for you. It will actually make it less desirable because it doesn't give you a realistic expectation of sex. Porn will not help you understand what sex is like. It will actually confuse you and lead you further away from understanding it. God isn't against porn because he thinks the act of sex is bad. He's anti-porn because pornography has twisted what he intended sex to be. He's anti-porn because it devalues people, which he cares about. And he cares about everyone. He's anti-porn because it's bad for you and it's bad for others. God is a 100% loving God, and there's absolutely nothing loving about pornography. So the second part of the verse that we looked at earlier says this: "The prudent give thoughts to their steps." This means that a person evaluates information carefully so that they don't fall into a trap. And that's exactly what porn is. It's a trap. It's a trap that wants something from you. It wants your time and attention and money and addiction. And in exchange, it gives you a false sense of sexual closeness. Culture doesn't tell you that because they don't see it themselves. A prudent person is basically someone who's wise. And many, many years after Solomon wrote the book of Proverbs in the Old Testament, a man named Paul wrote a letter that became part of the New Testament. He wrote to a group of people that he loved and cared about a lot, and he said this: "Be very careful then how you live, not as unwise, but as wise." When Paul says, "Be very careful," it's similar to Solomon saying, "Give thought to your steps." Don't believe everything you hear. Porn never tells the whole story. When you're being manipulated, step the other way. Be prudent, be wise, get yourself away from something that is so destructive. It would be crazy for someone to teach us about being healthy from a menu at a fast food restaurant, right? We would see right through it. We need to have the same mentality when it comes to porn culture. There are lots of steps we could all take, but for the sake of today, we're simply going to focus on 2. 1, refuse to be fooled. Train your brain. When you see the ad or the Snapchat, argue with it. Question it. What is it trying to sell me or convince me to do? All of you are adults. You're smart. You see through so many things that are fake or manipulative. You have to access those same smarts when it comes to porn culture. And remember, it's everywhere, and it wants something from you. It doesn't care about you, and it doesn't want what's best for you. It wants to trap you. So be wise, be smart, and be careful. And 2, refuse to participate. Create a plan to set yourself up for success before you even reach the trap. Think ahead. What will you do when you come across pornographic content or are tempted to believe the lies of porn culture? How will you put a stop to that manipulation? Sometimes it isn't enough to know you're being tricked. You need to help to get unmanipulated. Maybe you need to take concrete action and put some restrictions around your access to technology. If an industry makes $12 billion a year, you can believe it's very persuasive and convincing. Remember, it's a trap, and it's not possible to get out of every trap by yourself. Talk to a trusted adult or small group leader. Let them know what's going on. It may be that you have some things you need to confess and get off your shoulders. It may be that you need to ask them for accountability, to check in with you from time to time. We need each other to help fight against this industry. None of us want to be a part of something that manipulates us. We don't want to associate with something that hurts us and hurts others. We're smart and we don't want to be controlled. But porn culture is sneaky. And now that we've named it, we can open our eyes and see it for what it is and step the other way. And imagine if we did. How liberating would it be to move forward without being trapped by something that's so destructive to so many people? We would hurt ourselves and others less, and that is a big deal. Porn never tells the whole story. On the other hand, we have a God who loves us immensely, and out of his love for us, wants good things for us. He wants to see us thrive and not suffer. Porn is hurtful and damaging, and God wants better for us. He has given us incredible minds to see through the lies and incredible wills to walk away. So choose wisdom, be proactive, be willing to have those hard conversations, because this is worth the fight.
Well, thank you so much for being a part of tonight. Thanks for coming. Thanks for carving out some time of your day, but it's not over yet. We have our Zoom small groups happening right now. Make sure if you need the link to send us a message on Instagram or talk to your mom or dad, they've got the link in the email, and we would love for you to be a part of our Zoom small groups. If this is your first night or you've been attending maybe a few times over the last number of weeks and you haven't gotten connected with a small group, we would love to do that for you. So send us a message on IG or send me an email, josh.black@northpark.ca. I would love to get you connected with a small group. We've got some amazing small group leaders who want to get to know you, who want to talk to you, and so they'll be on Zoom, and we hope that you will too. So again, have a great night. We'll see you on Zoom.